Did a Dominion machine change one vote from Biden to Trump or from Trump to Biden?
No. This is a nonpartisan American company. It is not physically possible for our machines to switch votes from one candidate to the other. Let's be very clear. Our election system is run by local elected officials and nonpartisan poll watchers. We simply provide a tool to count the ballots and to print and count ballots. There is no way such a massive fraud could have taken place, and there are no connections between our company and Venezuela, Germany, Barcelona, Kathmandu, whatever the latest conspiracy theory is.
How do you know that couldn't have taken place?
Well, it's physically impossible. Look, when a voter votes on a Dominion machine, they fill out their ballot on a touchscreen. They're given a printed copy, which they then give to a local election official for safekeeping. If any electronic interference had taken place, the tally reported electronically would not match the printed ballots. And in every case where we've looked at, in Georgia, all across the country, the printed ballots, the gold standard in election security, has matched the electronic tally.
Some of the people watching you now, I mean, they don't believe you. They think you're lying. They're going to say, of course you're going to say Dominion's not guilty of anything because you represent the company.
Right. Well, I've got the facts on my side, and the president's attorneys will go on to press conferences, will go on TV and make these crazy allegations. And then 30 times they've gone to court and they have not offered a scintilla of proof. So all I can say is until we would love to see any facts or evidence they have. Thus far, we have seen none.
The president calls your company a, quote, radical left company. The software created for Hugo Chavez to steal the election of Venezuela, that software allegedly imported into the United States to steal the election for Joe Biden. Is that true?
No. We are a nonpartisan American company. We have no connections with Venezuela whatsoever. Nothing that they're saying is remotely true.
Are you foreign funded?
No, we're funded by American capitalists.
Can a poll worker change the codes to vote for, steal the election for Joe Biden, for example?
No, because if they change the code, no matter what a poll worker does, and we're talking about elected officials, we're talking about nonpartisan poll watchers, the paper ballots wouldn't match the electronic record. Again, this is the gold standard of election security. We have printed paper ballots that the voter reviews showing how they voted so that if we need to go back in a tightly contested race, as we have right now, we can do an audit. We can do a recount. We can physically match a printed ballot to a vote recorded by an electronic machine.
And that's called the paper trail. I mean, Sidney Powell is out there saying that the Democrats had 35,000 votes around the country. And when they had a hand recount in Georgia, the hand recount matched your machines, the Dominion machines. So let's say a poll worker.
We don't even work, right? Like they keep talking about, they're asking for recounts in Milwaukee and Dane County in Wisconsin or in Pennsylvania. We don't have machines in those jurisdictions. In fact, in Pennsylvania, in the 14 counties where Dominion machines were used, the president won 52% of the vote.
Wait, say that again?
In the 14 counties in Pennsylvania where Dominion voting systems machines are used, the president won by 52%.
All right, Sidney Powell and others say, well, they think that the thumb drives could upload material from foreign sources. Can a poll worker take a thumb drive, stick it in the machine, and fill it up with thousands of votes for Joe Biden?
No. The tabulator has no unlocked thumb drive access, no unlocked USB ports. And remember, these are secured by local elected officials and nonpartisan poll watchers. It's not physically possible to do what they're describing. The machines are what we call air gap. They're not connected to the internet. It's just not physically possible.
Are the machines designed with an algorithm that gives more votes to Joe Biden? Sidney Powell claims that the machines give 1 1/4 vote to Biden, 3/4 of a votes to Trump. Are they skewed? Do they shift votes? Are the votes tabulated in fractions?
No, this is nonsense. That is not done. That is not possible. And again, if someone tried to alter the electronic record, the printed paper ballots wouldn't match. It's not possible. Again, we've gone back in Georgia, we've gone back in other places, matched the ballots to the electronic tally. They match. There is no widespread fraud in the way that they're alleging.
Did Dominion bribe Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, the Secretary of State, to throw this election to Joe Biden? Sidney Powell calls it a Dominion scam.
So the argument is the Republican governor of Georgia and the Republican Secretary of State of Georgia took bribes? No. First of all, no, that did not happen. Second, it doesn't sound even vaguely plausible. They're Republican elected officials. They're supporters of the president. Why would they want Joe Biden to be president?
Keep in mind, this was on Fox News, delivered to an audience that has been groomed for weeks thanks to Trump's tinfoil hat lawyers. That massive fraud has taken place that deprived Trump of millions of votes, despite the fact that they've presented zero evidence of any fraud whatsoever. So if you can square those two things, please, I'd love to hear it. Consider too that not only did the Trump campaign and its Republican allies fail in court to produce any evidence of fraud, but they actually admitted point blank that they weren't even alleging fraud. Need examples? In Rudy Giuliani's big federal case in Pennsylvania, which he teased at his Four Seasons Total Landscaping parking lot press conference with pointed accusations of widespread fraud, he quite literally told the judge, quote, "This is not a fraud case." In that same case, another Trump lawyer reiterated explicitly that she was, quote, "not proceeding on allegations of fraud." In a different state case in Pennsylvania, a judge asked Trump's lawyers if he was alleging fraud, to which Trump's lawyer replied, "Your Honor, accusing people of fraud is a pretty big step, and it is rare that I call somebody a liar, and I'm not calling the board of the DNC or anybody else involved in this a liar. Everybody is coming to this with good faith." The judge asked again, "Are you claiming that there is any fraud in connection with these 592 disputed ballots?" To which Trump's lawyer replied, "To my knowledge at present, no." In Maricopa County, Arizona, while Trump was tweeting that hundreds of thousands of votes were stolen from him, his own lawyers in court said, quote, "We are not alleging fraud in this lawsuit. We are not alleging anyone stealing the election," conceding instead that the case concerned a limited number of cases of good faith errors in operating machines. They eventually dropped that case. In Nevada, lawyers representing Trump alleged criminal voter fraud in a public letter to Bill Barr, and yet in their court filing, the word fraud never even appeared, and instead focused on smaller claims regarding the use of a scanning machine to verify signatures and whether observers could watch the counting process. In other words, they'll allege fraud in public where there aren't any consequences to lying, but when it comes to the courtroom, where these lawyers' own reputations and jobs are on the line, suddenly the approach is much more measured. Suddenly it's not so much fraud as it is minor procedural issues. Funny how that works out, huh? And don't just take it from me. Republican Senator Ben Sasse said, quote, "Based on what I've read in their filings, when Trump campaign lawyers have stood before courts under oath, they have repeatedly refused to actually allege grand fraud because there are legal consequences for lying to judges." Also, let's just use some common sense here. If there was actually widespread fraud, don't you think the Democrats would have remembered to actually take the Senate? Don't you think they'd have remembered to actually gain seats in the House? Don't you think they'd have remembered to win state legislatures, especially ahead of redistricting? Do you really think Democrats conspired to commit the greatest fraud scheme in the history of this country, but forgot to derive the full benefits of it? Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And by the way, even the Trump campaign has tacitly acknowledged that the optics of this fraud campaign led by Sidney Powell are looking worse and worse for them. Giuliani released a statement saying, quote, "Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity." Giuliani got caught with his hands down his pants in front of Borat. He accidentally held a press conference in a landscaping alley between a sex shop and a crematorium. He had a box's worth of hair dye melt on his scalp, and even that guy is like, "Yeah, we're definitely not associated with Sidney Powell." That is how disastrous the legal strategy on the right has been. So they'll continue to surface these absurd claims while the rest of us continue to present the facts, starting with how Dominion voting systems is not a Venezuelan plot to overthrow Donald Trump. So Republicans can continue denying reality, but they're only embarrassing themselves more and more with each passing day. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.